When it comes to finding solutions to reducing high levels of gun violence in the territory, it has to be data first for the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. That was the clear message from senators during Monday's meeting of the Committee on Homeland Security, Justice, and Public Safety.
But the takeaways from today's dialogue, I believe, are the importance of acquiring data, housing data, and analyzing data in order to drive the policy that you would need to utilize to run your office.
Executive Director of the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, Antonio Emmanuel, said that the data the office currently gathers is from law enforcement, and that provides the organization with information about the most current and the most active problems.
The data gives us direction of who are those people, who are our frequent flyers, who are the ones that are doing the most crime in our neighborhood. And then we collaborate with our local and federal law enforcement agencies. And first, we try to mitigate the crime and work things out. But if we find that the people that we've identified are at risk, are the ones causing crimes, and then they're not cooperating with our walk and talks and our program, then we turn that folks over to the police department to render the law enforcement piece of it that we don't do.
Emmanuel described the vast majority of people on either side of a shooting, perpetrator and victim, as members or associates of street groups. However, the motives behind the shootings may not be what one might normally associate with gang activity.
The motive for the shooting may not be typical of a traditional gang war that you might think of in the States. Often shootings are precipitated by petty conflict, misunderstandings, simple arguments, relationship issues, or now the ubiquitous social media slight, where somebody feels like they're being disrespected and they come back and retaliate.
Meanwhile, Senate President Donna Fred Gregory, who, while not a member of the committee, was present at Monday's session, expressed concern about the quality of the data the Office of Gun Violence Prevention was accessing, noting that the territory received federal grant funding over a decade ago for a comprehensive data collection system. Fred Gregory wondered whether it was being properly utilized.
We call it VIVIS, and that system is should be responsible for collecting data. The system is housed in the Department of Education. When I say collecting data, cradle to grave data. The Office of Bureau of Information and Technology worked closely with the Department of Education. All of the departments and agencies, Department of Human Services, Department of the hospitals, health as it relates to new babies being born, Labor, VIPD, and the University of the Virgin Islands. All should be putting data into that system. The Virgin Islands Virtual Information System is now law. So my question is, how are you collecting data? I'm very concerned when I hear that we're collecting data from here and over here. Data has to be collected in a very structured way. So how are we truly collecting data at this point? Where are you getting your data from? And what type of data? Because it's one thing to collect data, but it's another thing to collect data that really helps you to address the specific purpose for the the Office of Gun Violence.
With the data it has collected thus far, the Office of Gun Violence Prevention has been able to determine that most school dropouts occur in the 7th grade, placing these children at a high risk of delinquency. Emmanuel also noted that most crimes of gun violence in the territory occur in neighborhoods with high concentrations of poverty and low-performing schools, concluding that the focus of policymakers should be in addressing the root causes of crime in the most vulnerable areas.
It is not a coincidence that most of the gun violence in the territory occurs in neighborhoods with high concentration of poverty, blight, high crime, neighborhoods often with dilapidated properties, empty lots, potholes, crumbling infrastructure, broken street lights, abandoned vehicles, overgrown bush and trees, and other environmental factors that communicate to residents that the government doesn't care. Combined with poverty, challenges with the education system, and lack of opportunities, these neighborhoods become havens for violence.
Kimberly Berry, Chief Legal Counsel of the VI Department of Human Services, represented Commissioner Kimberly Causey Gomez in the legislature. With the DHS one of the stakeholder agencies in efforts to mitigate the effects of gun violence, Berry spoke in support of the office and told lawmakers that she hopes the Office of Gun Violence Prevention will help to reduce the number of claims made for compensation.
2022, the numbers did drop slightly, but over the years, the amounts of applications have gone up, and we think that's basically because crime has continued rise. As crime lowers, we're hoping that we will get fewer people will need the assistance, therefore we will have less applications.
According to Berry, the Crime Victims Compensation Program reviewed 58 applications thus far for the year, 54 of which were approved for compensation totaling just under $392,000.